If you weren't an only child growing up, have you ever had to put up with sibling rivalry? I know I did, and I wish I didn't. It can range from annoying horseplay to arguments that really chuck rocks at the heart. But what I dealt with was much more serious than that. It ended up having me separated from my brother, between a barrier of our own hatred for the longest time. And to think, I could have prevented this if I wasn't such an audacious jerk. I always wanted to be an animator growing up. After so much work put into college, the arts of colouring, sketching, and polishing my craft, I was finally ready to put my all into my passion project. For a while now, I've dreamt of showcasing my animation to the higher-ups at big companies to see if I'm good enough, or if there's anything I need to change. I had plans to make adult cartoons, as well as adverts, but I wanted to start off with something simple first, that being educational programming. That's why I started my development on a pitch pilot for Noggin. Man, I'm getting sentimental just talking about this. The name of the show was Penelope's Park, and like a lot of educational programming, it was meant to teach kids about basic concepts that they're still trying to get a hang of, such as their ABCs, numbers, shapes, etc. During development, I had limited tools to work with. I'd made the mistake of taking out loans for college at the time, and so spending a hefty amount of money for a better setup was out of the question. So I decided to just stick with my graphics tablet, cheap softwares for animation and sound, and my desktop microphone. It's a good thing that a girl from my class opted to voice act. I promised her that she would get paid by the reps if they thought she was good enough, which looking back, made me sound like a dick. Thankfully, we still keep in contact to this day, but I'll keep her name anonymous for the sake of not getting her inbox blown up. I also had a friend from filmography class help me shoot each scene. Kudos to him. Now you may be wondering, what does this all have to do with my brother? Colin, my sibling, took the same classes that I did, but he ended up dropping out. When I asked my professor, he said it was because of stress. Now I know that was not the case at all. Fast forward to when I showed the pilot to a test group. I took deep breaths and reassured myself that things were going to work out in the end. After all, the worst thing they could have told me is that the cartoon sucks. And I knew they weren't going to say that, as I spent sleepless nights trying to perfect it. I did a short slide presentation about what I had in mind for the series, along with some business stuff like why I chose Noggin to work for. And finally, I rolled the film and showed them the progress that I had garnered over the past 3 months. The pilot started just how I remembered it, a view of my basement interior, full of toys, playsets, and of course a dollhouse, which is where the main character came into play. Penelope came right out of the door, and the key on her back would turn with glee, ready to meet the audience. The test group seemed to really like her design a lot, along with the mixture of 2D and live action. Penelope squeals with excitement.
Oh my stars, a new friend. Hi there, super duper happy to meet you. My name's Penelope. What's your name?
3 seconds of silence would ensue.
That's such a cool name. I get a feeling we're going to be the best pals by the end of the day. There's so little time, yet so much to do. So many games to play, and lots of memories to make. I'd love to have a partner to do all that stuff with. Maybe you can. What do you say?
Another second of silence.
I knew you'd be on board. Oh, we're gonna have such a fantastic time together. Follow me. I'll show you around.
Penelope started to walk around the setting, to where it looked like less of a basement and more like a village playset. There were little stores surrounding her, an empty fountain, and of course a park, topped with all sorts of activities, and this is where the learning portion of the pilot begins. At this point, Penelope talks to the viewer about what kind of stuff they can do until the end of the day. She exclaims that they made it to the park, and she informs the viewer that they can have a break between playtime. After practically frolicking over to the area, the following events would ensue. The first activity is hopscotch, but with numbers. Penelope would tell the viewer that she isn't the greatest at the game, because the square placement would always get her confused, so she would ask you for help. She ends up mastering the game in the end, and all is well. Next is an imagination section on the playground. The viewer gets to play pirates with Penelope, and she pretends that there's an enemy boat trying to raid them. In this scenario, there is a net cannon in the bottom of the ship, but a passcode is required. Instead of numbers, the lock has pictures of things that would be on a pirate ship. Once they finally get the net cannon and fire at the enemy pirates with it, she celebrates with a sea shanty dance before the scene would fade back into the playground. Afterwards, Penelope would tell the viewer that playtime really worked up some muscle and asks if you like to take a break. She then heads over to a bench with sketch pads on them. Penelope suggests drawing domestic animals, as she thinks they're really cute. She starts off by sketching a simple visual of a puppy, and she asks if you like it. When it's the viewer's turn to draw a cat, there's a few gags where they end up drawing something that isn't an animal, making Penelope laugh and joke with you. After a few attempts, the viewer would finally draw a cat, and Penelope would compliment their work. Penelope talks about how they have some time left, but she hasn't come up with anything else to do. A small wind-up duckling toy would suddenly show up, and would waddle against Penelope's leg, catching her attention.
Oh, it's you. New pal, this is my good friend Lucky Ducky. He usually comes by to give us some cool stuff to do. What's on your mind, Lucky?
The toy starts front-flipping in place a couple of times before stopping. At this point, there's a lengthy moment of silence. At first I thought that the video was bugging out, but it couldn't have been if there was no white noise playing. As far as I know, I didn't remember adding that at all. I thought I could fix it later, so I didn't worry too much. Until the camera cuts to Penelope's face. Her eye twitches a little, and she begins speaking in a quiet tone.
Are you even real?
Just as she says that, her sentence is cut off by the scene where Lucky Ducky walks away from their direction, prompting Penelope and the viewer to follow him. That was really weird, and I know for certain I never told the voice actor to say that, but I tried to keep calm and collected. After all, I can just explain myself to the test group later, right? Lucky Ducky leads Penelope and the viewer to a big shop playset with no staff, filled to the brim with musical instruments. Her eyes light up, and she skips around the room laughing, talking about how she can't wait to make music with you. She points to the instrument catalogue on the wall, and asks if the two of you could play brass together. Assuming that you told her yes, she grabs a map and makes her way through the shop with you. There's a lot of doors to go through to find the one with the brass instruments inside. The pattern to get to the brass room is square, circle, triangle, circle, triangle. And once she reaches the room, she plays Mary Had a Little Lamb with the viewer. She marches around the room as she plays the song, with the key on her back winding up more and more the more she stomps. This is where I saw another thing I didn't add. The screen paused for a moment and replayed the scene where she marched around the room on a loop, but it was in grayscale. A different song would play instead, and it sounded like it came straight from a funeral service. a picture of a note suddenly popped on the screen. A song about your career, the note read. The scene then suddenly cut back to where Penelope and the viewer had left the music place. I know for certain that I didn't put that in, and the audience was just as lost as I was. But I couldn't stop the video. I had to know what else was wrong with it, and what could have caused these messages to show. After talking about how fun it was to play the trumpet, Penelope yawns and stretches.
Well, that was quite the fun day. But boy, am I beat. A dolly needs to relax. Ready to head home now?
She extends her arm out and smiles, and a few seconds of silence ensue.
Okay, sweet. Though on the way home, I got something to share with you. A little ditty from my best pal. You were so nice, so patient, so kind to me. And what better way to show my thanks than through a song?
As she makes her way back to her dollhouse with the viewer, she starts singing and dancing. A jazz number would play as she describes the fun day they had in alphabetical order, saying things like, A is for amazing, and F is for friend. And finally, after the song ends, Penelope stops in front of her home and gives the viewer a big hug, pressing her face against the screen. I was hopeful, and started worrying less and less about the previous problems that went down. The pilot was reaching its end, and nothing too out of the ordinary seemed to happen so far. I thought way too soon. Just as Penelope was about to say goodbye to the viewer so the credits would roll, the video froze again. I checked to see if the video was paused, and no, it wasn't. The video still played, and there was about 7 more minutes left in the time slot. I remember the credits only being 2 minutes long. It finally unpaused, and while the art style looked the same, the animation looked slightly choppier.
Come inside. I have a book to finish if you want to read with me. No.
Penelope clearly looked dejected after she said that, but she didn't stop smiling, yet. No, this wasn't supposed to happen, I thought. This wasn't the ending I put in. I started to wonder what the hell this was supposed to mean.
Are you sure you don't want to hang out some more? I'm always sitting in the basement by myself, with no one to talk to, and since you showed up, I thought we'd, have some more time to ourselves. Why do you have to go already? Are you sure you don't want to sit on my couch and read some Macbeth?
The camera shook left to right, as if the audience was telling her no. Penelope shivers, and the sounds of a heartbeat are all that could be heard, alongside her voice.
Please don't leave me here. I don't want to have to go through another 5 years of seeing no one. Please stay.
The viewer declines.
I get it. You need something to make the stay more worth your while. I get it. You want another hug. A kiss even.
Another decline. Tears well up in Penelope's eyes.
No? What about my dress? A piece of my dress? If you're going to leave me rotting for half a decade, at least carry a piece of me with you. I want to experience the real world in some way.
The viewer continues to shake their head at her. Even while knowing that this was part of my creation, I still asked myself, what in the fresh hell am I looking at? Penelope continued ripping off chunks of her dress, now begging the viewer to say something other than no. She then drops the torn cloth and puts on an angry look.
If you leave, I will hurt myself. You hear me? I'm not joking.
Penelope screamed at the viewer, and the heartbeat sound sped up, Screeching sounds that were akin to nails on a chalkboard, along with loud bass-boosted rumbles played too, to prove she wasn't lying. She started to mutilate herself. She started with her buttoned eyes, yanking them off until stuffing flew, and loose pieces of string poked out where her eyes once were. She then grabbed onto the side of her mouth and slowly tore it off. A few snapping sounds could be heard. But she stopped about a third of the way through. Since she was blind, she ran her hands around her back, groaning in pain, looking for her wind-up key. When she found it, she yanked on the key 3 times before finally tearing it out of her. Penelope lets out a scream, so loud it sounded like it came from a slasher thick. She stabs herself in the upper body with the key, before grabbing fistful of stuffing and throwing them on the ground. She'd stop and gasp for breath, before yelling at the viewer,
Stay! Please stay! Nothing is real! Nothing here can talk to me! I need you! Stay!
I didn't even sit through the next 5.5 minutes to see what would happen. I closed the video, pulled out my USB drive right then and there. I tried explaining to the lead representative that I never put those scenes in the pilot. He didn't believe me, but he kept calm. He showed me the way out of the building. I instantly rang up my classmate on the way home and asked her if she had tampered with the film. She said she would never do that, and when I informed her of what happened in the pilot, she told me that somebody called her, claiming to be the co-director. She was requested to come over and record some lines while I was out getting groceries, because the project was suddenly switched to be pitched as an adult show last minute. Needless to say, I knew exactly who told her all of that. I stormed into my house barking at Colin. I was so angry, I couldn't even think straight, and I felt like passing out right there from how hard I yelled at him. He told me everything, and he was honest about all of it. I didn't truly help Colin growing up. My mother and father saw me as the better child, and I was too dense to see it until now. From school to college, I constantly wanted to work alone, and kept pushing him away when he needed help with his studies. He forced himself to work on school stuff alone as a result, and even then, our parents would only notice my work. He only got their attention when he made a bad grade, or his behaviour worsened in class. When he found out I was working on this animation project, he dropped out just to find the right time to mess with my work, and pray to God that I didn't notice. I didn't even know how to respond. I was still pissed beyond belief. But what he said really hit me. He was right. I really wasn't there to help him when he truly needed it. And now look what happened. I didn't even give a rebuttal. I stormed right out of the house and just drove to my classmate's dorm. She helped me cool down, and I can't thank her enough for it. When I arrived back at my house, my brother was gone, and he took some of his stuff with him, his clothes, his wallet, mainly the most important things he would have. My parents told me that they tried to stop him, but he insisted on leaving. In case anyone's wondering, Colin is fine. He was good friends with a dude from my animation class all those years ago. He seems to be having a good life. As for the animation, I didn't lose it, but I don't want to upload it. It'll just remind me of the ordeal me and my brother went through. I hope that one day, we can put that past aside and show each other how much we've grown. I'm sorry, Colin. And that, my dorks, was Penelope's Park, written by LafawndaPasta. My thoughts on this story? Mate, I was smiling the whole time I was reading this. This was fucking astounding. Oh my god. Mate, there was not a single part in this story I didn't like. I love the concept so much that instead of it being a lost episode of an unknown show, it's just a project somebody made. And for once, the reason of it going crazy actually makes sense. Holy shit, it's finally happened. Like seriously mate, I am so happy I read this. I love the story and the message it shows, because it is a very believable and relatable story. I'm sure some of us, if we have siblings, have been through points where it feels like either the older or the younger sibling is the favourite one, and you're the one that's been kept out. And maybe we have done something similar, where we tried to sabotage something of theirs to get back at them. And maybe it did fracture their relationship, like it's done with the reader and Colin. I love that message about this story so much. And I also love how the writer doesn't hate their brother now. They just want to reconcile with them one day. That's very sweet and touching, and it shows that wounds do heal over time. Also, I can't say enough how much I love the design of Penelope and the show. This is all so believable. I used to watch kids shows when I was younger. There were all kinds of, educational stuff. Think Dora the Explorer or Diego. And this was so accurate to how they were. Same with how I tried to do the voices and everything. I just love all of the stuff that LaFawnda put into this story. It felt like it was just long enough, no filler, it didn't overstay its welcome, it was just spot on. It really does feel like an episode of Dora, minus Swaper, but still. I love how descriptive it is. It really does feel like you can imagine this whole situation of Penelope showing the audience around, all the things. It really does feel like I could just picture a kids show in my head. And I just can't stress enough how well this was done. But I think arguably my favourite part of this whole story is the twist at the end. Oh my god, this was built up so well. Starting with the most subtle hint that something will go wrong, that the main character and his brother kinda had some history behind them. And then it leads to this. Again, it makes it all so believable. But I just love how it slowly shows how desperate Penelope is for attention, to the point of her even hurting herself. Cause think about it again, the whole reason why Colin is like this is because that the reader kept taking all of Colin's time away from the parents and hogging all of the spotlights. Seeing how desperate and desperate Penelope becomes, the more and more the audience continues to decline her. It's kind of like how that sibling who's been neglected keeps constantly trying to prove themselves to their parents or family or friends. But every single time, no matter what they do, they keep getting declined or they keep getting brushed aside, to the point where they do something rash, something insane, and maybe even hurt themselves. It's just so good. The imagery as well. I love the images that LaFawnda made for this story. They're all great, and I love Penelope's design. I was able to replicate her design for the thumbnail, and I fucking love how it came out, genuinely. That's a sign of a good character, because even if I can draw it, and I'm shit at drawing, it's great. But yeah, honestly, I've read this story now a few times, literally. All I could do was reread this story after I finished narrating it. There was one thing that did kinda annoy me a little, but after rereading it, I can kind of understand why. The writer mentions that they don't want to upload the video footage. My original criticism would have been, why would they be talking about it online then? And then I realised, maybe this is the writer's way of reaching out to Colin. Maybe this is the writer's way to try and re-establish their friendship, trying to meet up, talk it out, try and make things better. That's what I got after a few rereads. Now LaFawnda will definitely be watching this. But yeah, honestly, I can't find a problem with the story. I just fucking love it, there's no way around it. It's one of the best stories I've ever read. Again, I'm smiling when I'm doing this. Like, genuinely, it's made me so happy. Of course I'm giving it a 10 out of 10, I mean there's no other score you can give it. LaFawnda, mate, you hit a home run. Everybody, if you have not read Penelope's Park, or if you haven't seen anybody who's read Penelope's Park, show them this immediately, because they will love this story. Anyways, I hope you all enjoyed this narration. If you did, be sure to like, comment and subscribe. Hit the bell so you can stay up to date with my latest videos. Of course, check out LafawndaPasta in the description down below. Please give him some thank yous for how well he did this story. And again, LaFawnda, I know you're watching. Thank you so much, dude. This is brilliant. And I will see you all in the next video. Take care, my darks. If you enjoyed the video, and you would like to continue the scares, be sure to click one of the videos on the left or right, and click the channel logo to subscribe, and check the description if you want to join the Discord. Thank you for watching, and stay scared.